14. We're ready to go. That was my family. But my dad liked me best of all. He gave me a coat of many colors, unlike anything else anybody ever had before. And you know how my other brothers took it? Not good. And they began to punch on me every time they could because they were jealous. And then I had an ability to dream. And I don't know if it was the smartest thing to do or not, but there was one dream that I told my brothers, and I want to read it to you out of the scripture today. I don't know if I should have told them or not, but boy, this really ticked them off. They didn't like me to begin with. But here's what it says, that I had a dream. And when I told my brothers, they hated me all the more. It says the dream is this. We're binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose up, stood upright. And brothers, your sheaves bowed down to me. My brother said, you intend to reign over us? You are going to actually rule us? And they were thinking in their minds, no way. It says here, they hated me the more. Another dream, much like that everybody's going to bow down. And I guess maybe that probably shouldn't have been told to them, right? Because it just increased the hate more and more. More punches. My brothers weren't the best kids on the block. My dad would send us all out to take care of the sheep. And constantly they would want to go do something else. Leave it to somebody else. Well, one day I stayed behind. My dad didn't want me to go with him. And he heard word that they might be up to something, so he sent me out there to where they were to check, make sure they were doing what they were supposed to do. And you know what? When I got to where they were supposed to be, they weren't there. And a guy told me, oh yeah, I heard them talking. They went over to another place. So on my way over there, they saw me coming. And they thought, here's the knockout punch. You probably, I don't know if you've experienced a knockout punch before, but they hurt, and they hurt for a long time. And they thought, there's that silly dreamer. You can see him wearing that coat. You can see him a mile down the road. And remember those dreams of how great he was? How sorry we were? Let's just kill him. Let's just pitch him in a hole and take his coat, put some blood on it, take it back home. Tell Daddy. And the oldest brother, I heard, talked him out of it. And his plan was, let's just throw me in a hole, leave me there, and later he'd come get me out. So that's what they did. They pitched me in a hole, took off my coat. But before my other brother could come back, a bunch of camels came through with some Egyptians on it. And they had all kinds of goods. They were going down to Egypt to sell. And my brothers thought, hey, let's get that kid out of the hole. We'll make some money on it. So they took me out, and I thought they were going to apologize, but no. They said, if you'll give us $20, you can have this kid. We don't want him anymore. That hurt. But no, my own brothers give me up. And I thought, how is this going to work? I've got to draw. I can't let this terrible feeling take over. I got to be strong. Well, the story is that my brothers took my coat, put blood on it, took it back home, and my dad's like, hey, where's Joseph at? And they're like, oh, here's what we found. He jumped to conclusions, thought, oh my goodness, the wild animal has killed him, gone forever. Later I found out that he grieved so much that he had to leave home for a while. In the meanwhile, I'm riding camels down to Egypt. And when I get there, they take me to the place where they sell people, and they sold me. God must have been with me, because I got bought by a guy by the name of Potiphar, and he was high-ranking official in Egypt. He took me to his house, and for a while I just did whatever I was told to do. And after a while he said, you know what, you're doing such a good job, you're better than all my other slaves. I'm going to put you in charge. I'm going to let you be in charge of everything in my house. All the food, all my money, all my cattle, everything. Well, that went on for a while, and it seemed to be pretty nice. It seemed like God was blessing me. But then, another punch. Is that the way kind of life is for us? Every once in a while, the devil gets in and punches. I was lied about. I was told I did something I didn't do. But it didn't matter. We weren't after the truth, I don't guess. And you know what happened there? Potiphar got so mad that he took me down to the city jail. And right there before everybody, embarrassed, hurting, I had been sold by my brothers. I had been lied about in front of everybody, and they put me in jail. I became a prisoner. A lousy convict. He was in prison who had done nothing wrong. I became the best prisoner there was. And God again blessed me. Listen, I look back, think of all the things that I should have just given up on. I made friends there, and as a result, they put me in charge of everybody in the prison. So it seemed like everywhere I went, even though it was a bad thing, God seemed to bless. And while I was there, two guys came up to me and said, "We just got thrown in here, and we've had a dream, and we need someone to tell us what it means." And I said, I used to dream a lot. Give me a shot. And the first one told me his dream. And I'm like, you know what? You're going to get out of here in a few days, and probably about 3 days. And when you do, would you please remember me? And the other one guy was like, well, maybe my dream's good too. So you tell me my dream? And he told me what it was. And I said, here's your meaning. You're going to get out of here in 3 days, and they're going to cut your head off and hang you out on a pole. Not a good dream. That would have been called a nightmare. And you know what happened? 3 days later, it was Pharaoh's birthday, and he called for those two guys. Exactly what I had predicted would happen happened. The baker died, the cupbearer lived, and he got his old job back. But you know what he did? I had asked, would you just remember me? I did him a favor, but guess what happened? He forgot all about me. 2 years, 2 long years passed. And Pharaoh had a dream. He had a dream about some cows, and he had another dream about some grain. And he looked to his magicians and everybody else to tell him, what does this mean? I had this basically the same dream twice. What does it mean? And the cupbearer, like, wow, a lot went on. He's like, I remember back when you threw me into prison, there was a guy in there that could interpret dreams. Why don't you go get him? So they came and they took me out of prison, and I came before Pharaoh. Standing before Pharaoh, he told me his dream. And I stood there and said, here's the interpretation. Your country is going to prosper and have abundance for 7 years. But after that 7 years, there's going to be famine. And there's going to be people who need food. That's your dream. And here's what I would suggest you do. And Joseph presented a plan. There's a guy in a prison, now in a palace, telling Pharaoh what to do. You see, when you don't give up, when you get hit and punched and you know how to take a punch, you just keep on going, don't you? And now it was paying off finally. I told Pharaoh, here's what you need to do. You need to go through all your major cities and tell your commanders to gather up food during these first 7 years and put it in a storehouse. Because there's going to be another 7 years when you're not going to be able to grow anything. And so Pharaoh said, I'm going to go find somebody in charge of that. And then he thought, we're going to put you in charge of that. So he got me a chariot. I got a company car. I was second in command over all of the entire nation, not just somebody's little old house and not some prison. God just kept making it bigger and bigger until I'm over the cold country of Egypt. And I figured, you know what? That's what God does for those who know how to take a punch, who keep trusting Him even when things don't even look like they're going to work out. When you keep trusting Him, He keeps on blessing you. So I traveled in my company car. Well, it's actually a chariot, but you would have thought it was in the car for that day, to all the major cities. And I told those guys what to do, store it up. When the 7 years passed, everybody was happy. But then they began to get hungry. And I commanded the officials to let the people only on my command have food. So I controlled what everybody had. Egypt, our country, was the only country where there was food at. In all the other countries, people were dying because they were starving. They ran out of food. And they started coming to Egypt. And they had to come to me. I had strangers, I had people from all parts of the world come and ask, would you please, we'll buy food. You're the only place where food is. Could we have it? Let's put in charge of all of that. One day, there were about 9 brothers who came to me from a Hebrew land. And I looked at them, and I took a closer look, and I began to look at each one of them, and you know who they were? They were my brothers. It had been 10 years since they had seen me, and the last time they saw me, I was headed south on a camel. They thought, he's gone forever. When they came before me to ask for food, they didn't have a clue who I was, but I knew who they were. And it was all I could do to hold back my tears and not to tell them who I was, but I didn't reveal myself. We had a conversation. I asked where they were from. I asked about how their father was, so I could find out about my daddy. And they told me all what I wanted to know. I gave them food, and I gave them money. To make a long story short, when they came back the second time, I kind of made a deal with them. I kept one of them just for leverage, to make them come back. But when they came back, I finally let them know who I was. You ever done anything to somebody and you thought it's all said and done, it's gone? Suddenly, out of the blue, they walk in. There's a big old lump in their throat. You could just tell by the way they were looking at me. And they started whispering to one another. And I could hear them say, oh, it's going to get evil. He's going to take revenge. He remembers what we did to him. history goes on. My dad, the whole family moves in. And in the back of the minds of my brothers, they thought one day he's going to come and get even. In the last book of the book of Genesis, there's history recording our conversation. Because time had passed on to the point that my daddy had died. Jacob dead. And my brothers came to me thinking, uh-oh, now we're in trouble. As long as our dad lived, he wouldn't do anything to us. But now that he is gone, we might be in trouble. Let me read you what was recorded. His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. "We're your slaves," they said. But Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. I'm in the place of God. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then don't be afraid. I'll provide for you and your children." And he reassured them, and he spoke kindly to them. What my brothers meant for evil, God took me, as long as I knew how to take a punch and didn't take a punch back, as long as I could take a punch and didn't give up, as long as I could take a punch and still have hope and trust in God, God kept his word to me. And he gave me these words to say to them. I'm not going to get even. I know what you intended to do. You wanted to get rid of me. But God used even the bad things in my life to get me to this place so I could help the world live. Now, that's my story. I'd love to trade the beard and this stuff and put it on you and let you hear your story. Because we're all identical Joseph if we have that relationship with Jesus Christ. He said in this world, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have distress. You're going to have what he called tribulation. And there are going to be things that happen to you. You're going to lose your job. You may lose your health. You may lose your child. You're going to get punched. But I'm telling you ahead of time, you keep your trust in me, and I will honor that.
Amen.
Apparently you've been there. This morning I'm going to ask you to do this. If you've never learned what it means to trust him, we need to trust him to be the person that's going to take care of our eternity. But he'll also be the person who will take care of us right here. So this morning, if you've never trusted in him, or if you've taken the punch and it knocked you down, it's okay. If you say, well,